reminds me, I spent some time with Mark McCormick, who's the founder of IMG, the
Sure.
famous sports management
Sure.
company.
What you didn't learn at the Harvard Business School.
Exactly. Yale Law School, though.
Yeah.
He put a contract together, and his legal team got back to him, and he sent back a note with crayon on the top. This is too over-lawyered. Get it back to me in one page. And this is coming from a lawyer. Do you find that we're over-lawyered these days in communications?
I'm enclosing in our annual report this year the 1.5-page contract we used to buy National Indemnity for $8.6 million. National Indemnity now is the largest insurance company in the world by net worth, and it was 1.5 pages. We've had one-page contracts for other companies. I can't seem to pull this off anymore. I mean, I send these one-pagers out to our lawyers and say, let's get it down to this and let's get it done by next week. But the world seems to change on that. I still would go for the one-page contract. You know, I like to deal with people where I feel a one-page contract will do the job. If I have to have 50 pages in there to protect me against the guy I'm dealing with, I'll always wonder whether I needed 51.
Just as an aside, I think National Indemnity was your first foray into the insurance business. It's a deal that you chased, and I believe you overpaid for it.
Well, I hope the seller feels that way.
Who were the greatest business editors, do you feel, in the time that you've been observing the scene? And in their passing, have we lost something?
Jim Michaels was an incredible editor. I mean, he could put out the whole magazine, and he proved every story he edited, and he edited them all. It was improved by his touch. Barney Kilgore was a sensational editor. I mean, he envisioned a world defined by interest rather than by geography. So he took a daily newspaper and said, I'm not trying to make this interesting, you know, because you live in Omaha or you live in Peoria. I'm going to make it interesting because you live in the city of business. And he created, you know, a fantastic paper. Ben Bradley was a great editor, not a business editor, but he was a great editor. I think you'll see other great editors in the future. You know, the talent required for being a great editor has not been extinguished now. So maybe the formats have been reduced to which that editor can apply his talents or her talents, but I think you'll see other great ones.
Do you think, in terms of the media, we're going through a transitional era and we'll end up in a rational place, or will we see pictures of movie star selfies and cats on the front page of the New York Times?
Well, I don't think we'll see them on the front page of the New York Times, but we'll see them every place else. People, you know, that's why People magazine became the most profitable magazine you know, maybe in the world, certainly in the United States, by quite a margin. You know, Fortune magazine was still turning out things that I love to read, but it was People that sold. No, unfortunately, I think the great majority of people are going to like things very, very brief. They're going to like personalities. You know, but there will be people also that care about more in-depth journalism.
I was reading Robert Redford was quoted that he created Sundance because the studios were doing things for the young kids, Transformers and science fiction, and he wanted a place to do independent movies. Do you think the same thing applies to the media in the examples that you just gave, that there'll be an independent flourishing?
Well, there will be first-class journalism in institutions devoted to that, or publications devoted to that, and there is a big enough market for that. It's not where most of the money will be, and money will drive what the public sees.
Any parting advice before the end of our interview for the journalism student?
I think it's wonderful. If I didn't do what I do in my life, I would want to be a journalist. I mean, I consider myself a journalist to some extent. I assign myself a story. I say, is the Washington Post Company worth $22 a share in 1973? I say, you know, is the BNSF Railroad worth us paying $34 billion? I assign myself the story. It's my working hypothesis that it is, but then I go and look for the facts, and I try not to be selective about the facts that I use as input. So journalism, it's fascinating. You know, I love it. I would say that A, you should always observe that rule about not letting the hypothesis determine the story. B, you've got to learn. You've got to learn about accounting. You've got to learn about how business works if we're talking about business journalism. And you can always get smarter. And if you do the right kind of a job, you will attract the right kind of sources. I mean, I am a source for certain journalists, and the reason I am is because I admire their work, and the others get no place with me. So it's very important to, if you want to become a great journalist, to behave like one as you go along, and then all the other pieces will fall into place. And you want to have a curiosity about business. There are so many good stories that haven't been written yet, a few of them which I know. And so you couldn't be working in a better area. And there's always going to be business. Business is always going to be important to the body politic as well as be interesting to a lot of readers. And if there are so few that are good, that you're going to stand out if you really work at it.
One last question. You're expecting 40,000 at this year's annual meeting?
I wouldn't be surprised if we topped that, yeah.
This is your own social media gathering, you know that. The annual meeting has become a media frenzy, yet you've managed to maintain a common touch. Do you attribute that secretly to your ukulele playing?
No, I think I attribute it to the fact that I promised the crowd I won't play the ukulele. That's why they come.
Break a little, that's the story of, that's the glory